So when a client, like a web browser, gets a URL like this, it's going to contact the server at a given host and port using TCP, and it's going to send it. Well, what it sends first depends on the mode of the send, because there are some choices here still. There's get mode, which is the default mode. That's the mode that's used if you just put a URL in your web browsers at the top of your web browser. Post mode is used typically for forms. So instead of putting all of the information in the form in the URL, it sends it as extra data. There are some other modes that we're not going to talk about. So get and post will be enough for our purposes. Let's suppose that you go with get then. So you type this some URL in the browser, it uses get, and then so it sends capital GET, a space, and then a slash, and the path and the query. So this is not optional anymore. When in the information sent from the browser, there has to be at least a slash here. And then after the path and query part, then there's a space, and then the letters HTTP slash 1.0 or 1.1, depending on which protocol extensions the browser supports. And then after that, it's the end of the line, but it's written with CRLF, that is with a carriage return, ASCII 13, followed by a line feed, ASCII 10. And I mentioned that that's what Telnet sends. This is not just a happy coincidence. It's because Telnet existed for a long time and other such tools, and so HTTP was designed to be compatible with those protocols. After that first line, which is required, you have any number of header lines. These are all optional. And each of those lines is terminated with CRLF. So these header lines are extra metadata. So we have kind of a third level, a third degree of specification. We have a path and then some query that modifies that. The header fields have more to do with how the browser wants to get the information back, what formats it supports, what formats it prefers, and so on. We can see how this works without writing a new server by adjusting our echo server to, instead of printing out the lines that it gets, how many bytes it gets, rather just print out the whole string of what it gets. And let's remake the echo server, run it at port 8000, and then we can point a web browser at it by giving it the URL http then localhost colon 8000. And now the browser is not going to get a response back from our echo server that it likes, so it just looks hung. But we can go look at what the server printed out. This is what the browser sent to the server. It sent a get, because that's the default mode, and then slash, because that was all of our path, just a slash. Modern browsers accept HTTP 1.1. And then there's some other information here. For example, that the connection should be kept alive. That's the client requesting that it might need more things from the server, so keep the connection alive. But that's optional. It's just a request. Similarly, the browser says it's happiest to accept text HTML, and then it accepts many other things. There's a user agent field, and so on.